Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Madam Zailani. So today my friends and I will be presenting on the textual analysis that we have done, and the literature work that we have chosen is Syair Siti Zubaidah, Perang Cina by Rahman Al-Ahmadi in 1840. So in this presentation we'll be covering on the introduction, the textual analysis itself, and also the review that we have done on the textual analysis. Okay, so Syair Siti Zubaidah, Perang Cina is a poetry or ballad it was written by Rahman Al-Ahmadi in 1840. The story is based on the existing relationship of conflict and war between the people of Kembayat Negara and of Malay culture, and also the people of China, of the Chinese culture. The poetry tells the story about Siti Zubaidah, who got married to Sultan Zainal Abidin, who is the Sultan of Kembayat Negara. The story progressed as Sultan Zainal Abidin, who was eventually got kidnapped by the Princess of China and was taken to China as a hostage, and Siti Zubaidah, being the devoted wife herself, she decided to disguise herself as a man and train in martial arts in order to save her husband and end the war. Okay, next. Literature review. Okay. The article that we have chosen as a reference for this textual analysis is from the Lessons in Engagement from a Malay Classics, translation of Syair Siti Zubaidah Perang Cina by Lalita Sinha in 2010. So in this article, the author was trying to investigate the poetic expressions that exist in our Malay literary work, which in this poetry, the existing poetic expression was about the relationship, the conflict between the Malay and the Chinese. So as we know, poetry does not only contain literal meaning, but also it conveys the figurative meaning too. So, okay, moving on with the methodology. In this textual analysis, we use the qualitative observation approach in analyzing this text, which we firstly transcribe and analyze each verse in the poetry, and then we would find the recurring translation procedures in the verses, and also lastly we will analyze the prominent translation procedures by providing the examples from the verses. Okay, let's move on with the other presenters.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now my name is Ahsan 044062. I will be explaining on the translation procedures that we have decided in this presentation. We have decided 3 translation procedures that is very prominent in our textual analysis, which are calque, equivalence, and modulation. Now, let me explain to you what does each of these translation procedures mean. Let's go with calque. Now, calque is a long translation or a phrase borrowed from another language, and then it is literally translated word for word. Now, the concept for calque is that it must borrow a word or an expression from another language, but then it translates literally each of its elements. We have 2 types, lexical and structural. Lexical calque. The lexical calque respects syntactic structure of the expression. For example, Islamic banking becomes perbankan Islam. Whereas structural calque is where we introduce a new construction towards that language. For example, Prime Minister becomes Perdana Menteri. Okay. Next we will go to equivalence. Now, equivalence means that the word is replaced, one word from the source language with another word from the target language which has similar meaning. That doesn't mean by reformulation or equivalence. Now, equivalence have two types, descriptive and functional equivalent. Functional equivalent focuses on the functions for that translation. Do keep in mind that when we do translation such as equivalence, it is an oblique translation, which means where the translation cannot be translated normally like a direct one. So the usage of equivalence is to explain that there are sometimes, and the translation must be explained using the function of that word. For example, Tami Binder is bengkok. Yes. How about descriptive? Descriptive is how you describe that translation because there's no term for that translation. Khatam. Finishing of your Quran study. There's no word in English that is equivalent to khatam in its own rights. So, let's go to modulation. Modulation is actually a change of point of view of that translation. Say that a source language translates, a source language is negative. The target language seeks to be positive by changing its point of view and the perception of the target language. Now, it changes the form of the message and it changes the point of view of modulation. For example, when we say undoubtedly in English, we say ternyata in Malay. The meaning stays the same, but the point of view is changed. Alright? Now, once we get that settled, let's go to another slide explaining on calc. Calc, please. So next slide. Thank you. Okay. Alright, calc. Calc. When we know that calc is a borrowed word, translated literally word from word. Let's go with the verse in this ballad. From verse 42, senjatanya tembung emas dimasak. Okay. We know that tembung emas. What is tembung emas? Yes. So that's the target language is a seasoned gold mace, a weapon of warfare. Now we know that the tembung emas now is actually a gold mace. This is a very straightforward lexical calc which changes gold mace to tembung emas, borrowed from source language, translated literally word to word. Alright, with that, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, so let's proceed with the examples of equivalence. Now, let's look at the verse 1. Cincu Wangkang terlalu marah. Okay, Cincu means captain. Wangkang means junk ship. So, but the target text translates the verse to owner of junk ship rather than captain of junk ship. Just like I said, Cincu captain, Wangkang junk ship. Why not captain of junk ship? But still, the translator gives equivalent, which is owner of the junk ship. They carry the same meaning of the source text. Okay, next. Now, let's look at the second example of equivalence. Verse 19, mari menghadap yang diperkuat. Okay, the word mari, come in English. Menghadap translate to meet. Okay, but the target text translated as take this matter rather than let's meet. Okay, if we translate to Malay, mari menghadap yang diperkuat, translate to English, let's meet the king. So this use the equivalence because let's meet the king is not proper in their language. Instead they use let's take this matter to the king. Okay. Right? Now let's proceed with the examples of modulation. Okay, let's look at verse 15. Pedangku ini sangat berkilat. Okay, the translator will be just as my sword in the sun is ablaze. So different, as you see. Actually, the translator created an expression in which the reader understands that the sword is shining, maybe just like the sun, how the sun shines. Okay, to explain mundane expression into more sophisticated meaning with it. Okay, next. Okay, the final example, verse 4. Dagangan aku habislah sudah. The translated source text is all my goods I've traded for a fee. Now the reason for the modulation is to explain how the goods are destroyed, since the author wished to rhyme all the verse. Okay, so all my goods I've traded for a fee rather than all my goods are destroyed or done for, because he wants to rhyme with the verse 3. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you. Okay.
So these are the reviews of strength and weakness in the Syair Siti Zubaidah. So first thing first, the strength that we found in this translated text of Syair Siti Zubaidah is that the translator has a creative mind, because he actually managed to rhyme the translated text of the ballad itself without changing any meaning, and still making sense in terms of meaning from the source text. And he actually follows somehow follows the format or style that the source text used. And next, okay, the translator used multiple techniques in translating the ballad. For example, like what Ali and Nazim has explained, they were using calque, modulation and metaphor to foreground the meaning in source text. For example, here, sampailah ke negeri Cina, the translated text is at last at Chinese soil he finally trod. So it brings the same meaning, although it is somehow like a direct translate, but it's still making sense in terms of the meaning. Okay. And for modulation, dagangan aku habislah sudah, the translated word is all my goods are traded for a fee. Still, it gives the same meaning in both languages. Next is the metaphor is used to foreground the meaning in source text. We can see that in source text it uses pedangku ini sangat berkilat, and it uses metaphor in the translated text, which is in English, just as my sword in the sun is a base. It gives the same meaning. The metaphor gives the same meaning as the source text. Next, and these are some of the weaknesses that we found in translating the Syair. So first is inaccuracy in vocabulary. We have two examples here, which is usir mengusir and ingat. So in the translated text, the translator used pursuing instead of ousting, which is actually the more accurate meaning to the usir mengusir. And it's same with the ingat. The translator used a praise instead of remember in the stanza. Okay, for this second point, rhyming complicates the poetry. The translator intend to complete the rhyme, but it somehow gives like misconceptions in the translated text. We could see that in the next example.
Okay. Now we will go to look at some of the examples for the misconceptions created by the rhyme of that the author wants to create. Let's go with it. For example, wahai Sultan Kembayat. Katanya, wahai Sultan Kembayat. Alright, hail Sultan of Kembayat yet unfazed. The reason that the author actually wanted to rhyme, it's true, a praise, a blaze, amazed. But by using yet unfazed, it sort of means giving a different conception, a different meaning towards the meaning of the verse. Like supposedly, hail Sultan of Kembayat, he said, but yet unfazed. So the reader doesn't understand what yet unfazed has to do with the meaning behind this translated text. Okay? Now let's go to the second one. Sama menanti datang kemudian, together to wait for his Highness' aid. There's a problem here because once you're a reader, you will try to understand where is this Highness' aid that is being mentioned in the source text. Now, once you don't understand that there's nothing mentioned, it's clear that the author wants to use the rhyme to give a flair to his sophisticated meaning towards his target text. Thus complicates the poetry by actually adding information that is unnecessary. So, supposedly, sama menanti datang kemudian, something but doesn't relate towards His Highness because we don't know what exactly translates His Highness hates from the source text. So, that's it. The structure creates another perspective towards the meaning, so it confuses the reader. So the reader must make assumptions, their own assumptions, to understand this verse better. Thank you so much.
So, these are the recommendations that we would like to suggest to the translator. First, the translator should find the most appropriate vocabulary, and also we found out that some of the words in the translated text are difficult to understand if they don't have enough vocabularies. So we would like to suggest the translator to put the glossary at the end of the poetry, so that it will be easy for the readers to check the meanings of the difficult words, so that they could understand the translated text better. So that's all. Thank you.
So, by doing this textual analysis project, we come to learn that some literary texts, once they are translated, we can learn that there are many translation procedures that they have done. We understood why they did it. We understood why it rhymes and whatnot. But there are sometimes the strength of that author in doing this translation, and sometimes there are flaws and weaknesses that they've done. So all in all, the idea for a translated text is very important, and it's quite a burdensome task for a translator. Although the rewards are good, the rewards are great, and people should be encouraged to focus more on translation and also textual analysis. With that, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a good day.